There's one major thing that almost every creator guru gets wrong, and I know this because in the past 5 years, I've gone from basically making minimum wage to closing multiple 5-figure projects with some of the top travel brands in the world. So I want to reveal what that number one mistake is, but more importantly, how you can actually use it as a massive unfair advantage so that you can get much better results in your content business. So for the first few years of my content business, I basically relentlessly focused on growing my Instagram account. I didn't really care about money or business or any of that kind of stuff because I just kind of figured that no one would want to pay me unless I had at least 50,000 followers. But I also had a few other beliefs, like the more followers I had, the more I would make, or even worse, that as I got more followers and more views, I was virtually guaranteed to get paid. Now the problem with that is that both of them kept me on this hamster wheel of basically just posting every day and hoping eventually I will get paid, which, spoiler alert, never really happened. So I basically spent the better part of 2 years spending my entire days shooting and posting and engaging on Instagram so I could grow my following and grow my views. But I actually never made a dime off of that, so I was spending the rest of the time taking on random side gigs, shooting weddings, shooting portraits, doing all these different things to support myself so that eventually my Instagram career would take off. So after about 2 years, I had grown my following to about 75,000, which is, not huge, but also, somewhat substantial. But I kind of realized some really discouraging things. So the first one is that I really didn't get many inbound leads, and the ones I did basically were offering me a free collab. So I ended up having to pitch brands, and almost every single time I pitched, they just assumed that I wanted to get a free stay or a free product or get an affiliate link or something like that. And even when I tried to pitch them for a paid project, they would basically just tell me that they don't have the budget. And another thing I realized is that I was wasting a ton of time posting and engaging and trying to build a following of random people on the internet that never would be able to even hire me. They were not the brand decision makers. They were not people that could actually pay me. They were just random people on the internet, so it actually did me no good. So I basically spent all this time growing a following for nothing, or at least I thought. And to be honest, my story is not unique. I talk to people like literally every single day. Maybe even you are one of these people who kind of struggle with the same thing, where they're trying to grow their following, but they're struggling to make money in the meantime. And I actually did an interview with one of my students in my program who literally quit his 60,000 follower Instagram page because it wasn't sustainable, just doing all these free gigs and stuff. But after about a year of working together, now he has a team of 5. He has 10 content clients paying him mid 4 figures every single month, and he's grown his business beyond anything even close to what he had done on his Instagram page. And by the way, he did this in Kenya. So if you haven't seen that video, you should definitely check it out. I'll leave a link here, but make sure to watch the end of this video first. But the point is, he was just like me, maybe even just like you at this stage. So he's spending all of his day, chasing views and engagement and followers and all this kind of stuff. But meanwhile, he was struggling to get paid. So the big question is, what actually changed in that year of working together? And it's a really simple process I call the growth creator model. But in order to explain what the growth creator model is, I first have to kind of point out some of the flaws in the current way that most creators kind of pitch and run their business. So the traditional kind of content creator route that most people follow looks a little something like this. So basically you spend your entire day growing a following, posting, engaging, all this kind of stuff, hoping that eventually you'll get some inbound leads from brands. And it takes a very long time, but eventually maybe you'll get a few coming in. But the problem is most of them just assume that you'll want to work for free, or they offer very cheap rates. So you kind of have to go on the offense and you start pitching brands, but you don't know how. So you download an ebook and you copy and paste this script to a bunch of brands. And guess what? It's the same kind of issue where they're just like, yeah, we'll give you a free collab, we'll give you free product, affiliates, maybe on the off chance that you might get, a paid gig every once in a while, but it becomes really tough. So when these people come to you and they're like, hey, we can only offer a free collab, and you try to pitch them a paid project, the answer is always either we don't have the budget or they just completely ghost you. So in order to kind of save your dignity, you're like, well, it would actually be kind of nice to have that experience, and like maybe I could use this to leverage in the future to get a paid project, which by the way never really works, but you try and you accept the gig, and then immediately you kind of regret it because you're like, dang, I really should be valuing my time a lot more. And then even worse, you also realize that you can't be doing this for much longer before you're gonna have to go back and get a real job that actually pays you. I know, I've done this before. So the question is, why the heck does this happen? Because honestly, it doesn't happen for marketing agencies and production companies that have been in business for a very long time. They actually can charge a lot of money. But even if it did, they would just ignore the email because it's not even worth their time. So the question is, why does it happen to content creators? Well, it really happens for 3 main reasons. And the first reason is that you're just pitching to the wrong clients. So you have to pitch to clients that, number 1, actually need your service, and number 2, can actually afford to pay you. The second main reason this happens is that you are just commoditized because there's thousands or tens of thousands of other very talented creators that are kind of vying for spots with these same similar clients. And if you can't create an offer that actually makes you stand out against these people, then those people are like, well, why would we pay you when we can just get this guy to do it for free? And it's basically the same thing. And then the third reason, which is detrimental to everybody, is that you just don't have any proof of tangible ROI. Like maybe you have proof of like, hey, I've worked with this company, or this is the pictures that I have taken, or the reel, or maybe even you have proof of reach, right? But you don't have any proof of tangible ROI for clients. So therefore it makes it very difficult for them to invest. Because I don't know about you, but I run a business and I don't like investing my hard-earned money into things that I don't know are actually going to be beneficial to me. And I would imagine your clients are probably the same. So the question becomes, if we know that those three things, your audience, your offer, and your proof are kind of the bottleneck preventing you from actually being able to get these paid gigs, then how do we change those to be able to actually get paid gigs? Well, the growth creator actually accounts for all three of those things. So I'm going to kind of break down each of them, and then I'll give you some more concepts of how to apply these specifically to your business. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first main issue is that most people pitch clients that don't actually need them. So they find the Instagram famous hotels, the Instagram famous brands, or the ones that everybody is pitching, and then they wonder why they get lost. Well, those brands typically don't need you. And if they do, there's an argument that could be made that they need to test more ad creatives, or they need more consistent content or whatever. But because they're being pitched every single day, they kind of have their pick of the litter of whoever they can take. And to be honest, a lot of those people are willing to do it for free. So to be honest, what I would much prefer to do is find amazing brands, amazing resorts, amazing clients who just don't have great content, and I can work with them, and within a month or two of them using my content, they get incredible results, which means they're much more likely to get on retainer with me, or at the very least, hire me multiple times throughout the year because I provided so much value and there's such a transformation in such a short amount of time. So that's the first thing. We need to pitch brands that actually need us. The second thing is we need to pitch brands that can actually afford to pay us. So I personally prefer to pitch clients that are either selling something very expensive or that are doing at least $2 million a year in annual revenue, which you can find pretty easily on LinkedIn just looking at their company profile. And the reason for that is because if they're doing anything less than 2 million, then they likely don't have a massive budget to be able to, afford content services. So they're just gonna, kind of want to negotiate with you all the time. And personally, I don't think it's worth it. So I personally prefer companies between 2 to 10 million because that shows that they're in a growth phase, but they probably don't have a huge amount of, infrastructure in terms of a huge marketing team, content team, all that kind of stuff. So you can actually pitch them and land those deals fairly easily. Great. So we have a client that actually needs us and can afford to pay us, but we actually need to break things down a little bit further so we can understand exactly how to speak to this type of client. So we need to know things like who their customer is, why their customer chooses to purchase their product or chooses to stay at their resort, or how are they currently getting customers and what's broken with their current marketing system, and how can we actually solve that with content. So if we don't know these things, then it becomes very difficult to pitch any kind of solution to a brand because we don't even know what problem we're solving for. So now that we have a little bit more of an idea of who we're actually pitching to, the next question is, well, what the heck are we even pitching? And to be honest, this is where most creators, including myself, go wrong. And this is honestly what kept me stuck just getting free collabs after free collabs. So what I would do is I would pitch content. I would say, hey, I got 100,000 followers. You can post to my page and you'll get this much reach. Or I will create 3 reels for you. Or here, you can post these to your page. But the problem is none of that stuff actually results in a tangible ROI for the brand. So therefore, they don't really care. So instead of doing that kind of stuff, we actually need to sell something highly valuable that takes them from their current challenge to their dream outcome using content as the vehicle. But even more importantly, or in addition to, we actually need to solve for a lot of the common challenges that a lot of brands face with the current traditional content models. Assuming that a brand is actually, investing into content and actually working with creators, then what are some of the common issues that they run into? Well, one of them would be that they have inconsistent content, both in the quality in terms of not just if it's cinematic for UGC, but in terms of if it's actually getting results. Inconsistent content in terms of quantity, meaning that they don't have enough stuff to post organically, or they don't have enough stuff on their website, or they don't have enough ads to test against each other, different hooks, different A/B, testing variations. Or lastly, they have an inconsistent content style, meaning if they're working with a bunch of different creators, then they don't have a cohesive brand image and it becomes kind of tough. The next thing is that most people only want to work for free once because the novelty kind of, wears off. So they constantly have to be, finding new creators, finding new talent, which kind of leads to some of that inconsistency issues, but is also a massive logistical nightmare. It's a time suck. They have to have somebody dedicated to just reaching out to creators, and it just takes a lot of time, right? And then ultimately, they get inconsistent results because they're working with a bunch of different people, but they don't have a cohesive strategy of what they're actually trying to accomplish. So therefore, it's just a bunch of random stuff that's thrown up and likely just doesn't get results. So there's a lot of issues with the current content creator model that we can actually solve with a better offer. So like if you bring these kind of stuff up to your typical brand manager, marketing manager, they will resonate with that stuff and they'll be like, yeah, you know what, you're right. We actually have been looking for a way to optimize for this stuff. So if your offer actually optimizes for this stuff and fixes some of those problems, they will want to hire you versus everyone else who's just saying, hey, I can make 3 reels for you and post you on my page. And if you have experience growing your own following on your own page, you actually have a massive advantage because of what comes up in number 3 with the growth creator model, which is proof. And by the way, when I say proof, I don't mean like putting logos on your website of all the different resorts and brands you've done free collabs with, or even if they're paid projects. And I also don't mean showing portfolio. And I also don't mean saying that you have 4 years of experience, because all that stuff is kind of irrelevant. Brands don't really care. What they do care about is, did you get a tangible result, a business result for the clients that you worked with, so that we can justify the expense and allocate budget towards you versus some of the other options that we have, like, just spending more money on ads versus throwing it into Google ads versus doing literally anything else that they can do to market. And to be honest, this is something I'm really, really big on in my program with my students. And it's why my students get such great results, is because we focus, number 1, on getting incredible case studies, because once you have proof of results, it makes selling 100 times easier. But the next question that comes up almost invariably is, well, if I don't have proof, how do I get proof? And this is where, if you've grown your own page, you have a massive unfair advantage. So if you've actually grown a bit of a following, instead of reaching out to brands and just shilling ad space on your page where you might get paid on a one-time basis, what you can do is actually leverage your page as a living, breathing proof of concept and case study that your content actually works. And this is great because if you've never worked with a client before, or if you have and don't have any results-based case studies, you can actually leverage your own page to show that you actually know what you're doing and that you can implement something similar for them so that they can be able to grow their page and actually get results as well. So just as an example, we have most every creator in the entire world saying, hey, I can make you reels, I can take some pictures, I can post you on my page, whatever, right? So you can pitch that and you could get lost in the crowd. On the flip side, you could pitch something like this. You could say, hey, in the last year, I've grown my following from 0 to 40,000 followers using my 7-second ad strategy. And I'd love to show you the exact strategy that I used and how you can implement it for your company. So you tell me, you have these people on the side saying, hey, I can give you 3 videos. You have the other person on the side saying, hey, I'll give you the exact strategy of how I grew my following and actually got results. Who would you be more likely to respond to? My bet is on this guy. So I think it goes without saying that the line that I just mentioned is just a million times more enticing than, I can make some videos, I can post you on my page. So optimize for that. Okay, great. So now that we know the 3 core components of the growth creator model, which is the right client, the right offer, and having proof you can actually produce, the next question is, how can you actually apply this to your business specifically? And I actually did an entire breakdown video you can check out right here, where we have an overview of the entire system and, more importantly, how you can apply it to start getting clients as soon as next week. So check it out here.